East Germany built a training system that could turn skinny, untrained men into some of the strongest athletes on the planet. But what's crazy is that their secret program only uses 3 exercises designed to get you unbelievably strong without a gym. And by the end of this video, you'll know the exact workout routine, the 3 phases behind it, and how to start it this week, even if the only equipment you own is a floor. It all starts with the method behind the workout itself. Now, most people think getting strong means doing 100 different exercises, but the Germans didn't think this way, and they knew better. They didn't care about variety. They picked a few key lifts and repeated them again and again with a method that most people don't even know about. And that method is called German volume training. The idea is simple. One big compound lift, 10 sets with 10 reps. It sounds like a lot right now, but don't worry, we'll get you there. You need to load the bar with about 60% of your maximum. Rest 60 to 90 seconds between sets and keep the same weight for every set. And you don't increase the weight until you finish all 10 sets of 10 with clean form. Another interesting thing is the exercises themselves were not random. For legs, they focused on squats and front squats, and after that, for strength, it was usually bench press or overhead press. And for the back, pull-ups or barbell rows. Every one of these movements work a large part of the body at the same time. That's why a training session often needs only 2 lifts. But 10 sets of 10 was only phase 1. Once someone can handle the volume, the rules change. In phase 2, you have to do 10 sets of 6 reps with heavier weight to build raw strength. Finally, in phase 3, you have to do 10 sets of 3 reps with near maximum weight for peak power. That was the whole workout, but not the main reason to get strong. Because the interesting part is where it came from. It came from 1945 when Germany was broke and there were no gyms, no barbells, or no stacks of iron plates. So they built everything themselves. Concrete was poured into buckets and attached to wooden poles. That became the barbell. And the scaffolding pulled from bombed buildings was turned into pull-up bars. Even old military bags were filled with sand. That was the only weight they had. For some guys, the entire gym was only a broken staircase and 2 buckets of cement. No towel service, unfortunately. The training matched the equipment though. And one specific type of training they did in those conditions turned out to be more effective than anything to do with a barbell. It was called bodyweight training. So don't worry, you're not going to have to go get concrete. They did push-ups, pull-ups, and bodyweight squats. And this is where it connects back to the workout you just saw, because what happened next explains why the system works so well. And because of that, the men who came out of this program were pound for pound stronger than most guys in a fully equipped gym today. After months, sometimes years of training like this, something started to show up that nobody expected. A 70-kilo man doing 25 strict pull-ups and marching 10 kilometers with 30 kilos on his back. Which may not sound super impressive, but I dare you to try to keep up with him, because you couldn't. See, if you train with bodyweight right now and you feel like you're not making any progress, then listen carefully to this. When East Germany finally started getting real funding and proper equipment, they placed a 10 sets of 10 system right on top of this foundation. And that combination made results extreme. But before any of that happened, this foundation caught the attention of something bigger. A government program that didn't wait for strong athletes to appear. It went looking for them, starting at age 6. All that training on the rubble and the rough pull-up bars showed the coaches something surprising. The guys who came out strongest were usually not the biggest. Most of the time, they were actually the skinniest. So East Germany stopped waiting for strong men to appear. Instead, they went looking for them, to build them by themselves. Schools across the country slowly became testing grounds. Kids were pulled aside and tested on simple things, like push-ups, pull-ups, sprints, and jumps. Then their results were recorded. Imagine being 6 years old and having a government official watching you do pull-ups. The kids who stood out were marked. Then they were tested again at 9, and again at 12, and then again at 15. Each round narrowed the group even more. It was like a talent show, but nobody clapped and the judges were just wearing lab coats and stern faces. And something interesting kept showing up. The lighter, skinnier kids often performed better than the bigger ones. And the reason was simple. A lighter body is easier to build into a strong one, but a heavier, untrained body often just gets in its own way. The coaches figured this out early, and it completely changed how they chose who to train. But finding the right kids was only half the job. What they did with them next is what actually built the strength in their young age. The kids who were selected were placed straight into that system. and they trained almost every day in special sports schools across the country. These schools were called KJS, and they had real coaches, structured programs, and clear training plans. This was not normal physical education, but that's not the whole story, because behind the coaches was a research program in Leipzig. There, they discovered the rules tested on Germans that change how you train. Like I said, finding the kids was the easy part, but training these kids was not. So they needed to go to a different school, and the best ones were sent to the building I was just talking about. From the outside, it looked like a normal university, but inside, it worked more like a strength laboratory where hundreds of specialists were studying training in detail. They measured squat depth down to the centimeter, rest times down to the second, even hormone levels before and after training. While many coaches in other countries were shouting "lift heavier," these scientists were trying to calculate the exact rest between sets. And slowly, a few clear rules started to appear. The first rule was simple: the weight must always go up. This is logical, right? But it needs to go up slowly. Also, just small, steady increases over time. Today, some people call that progressive overload. But the second rule was phases. First, volume, then strength, then power. The final rule was exercise selection. They focused almost entirely on compound lifts, squats, presses, and pulls, and it meant a full training session could be done in under 45 minutes. Those rules became the backbone of the system. But this raises a big question. Did those skinny kids actually become strong for life? Because if they didn't, this entire system means nothing. Well, the numbers answer that pretty quick, and honestly, they're pretty surprising. In 1968, East Germany entered the Olympics for the first time as its own country. And just 4 years later, they were already in the top 3 in the world, not just competing, but dominating. And here's what I found the craziest. The United States had around 200 million people to choose athletes from. East Germany only had 16 million. That's fewer people than the entire state of New York. Yet they kept beating the US again and again and again for decades. Not every time, but enough. And by the end of it all, they had won over 519 Olympic medals, including 192 gold. And remember, this came from the country smaller than many American states. So clearly something in that system was working. So can you take that same system that built Olympic champions and use it today? And if so, how? Well, it's surprisingly simple. You train 3 days a week. And on day 1, you do bench presses and barbell rows like we talked about, 10 sets of 10. After that, on day 2, do squats and 10 sets of 10 again. Finally, on day 3, do overhead press and pull-ups again, 10 sets of 10. And that's the whole program. And even though it sounds simple, here's some quick mistakes that many people make. You don't add weight until you complete all 10 sets of 10 with a clean form. Not 9, not 9.5, all 10. Most guys rush this part, and that's exactly why most guys get stuck. Now, after about 4 to 6 weeks, you change the phase just like they did. First 10 sets of 10 for size, then 10 sets of 6 with heavier weights, and then after that, 10 sets of 3 close to your max. If you don't have a barbell or a gym, guess what? This still works. You can use push-ups or pull-ups, dips, or bodyweight squats. Run them the same exact way. High sets, short rests, and then earn that next level. If you want an easy printout for this routine, just click the link in the description or in the pinned comment down below. And if you want to keep working towards your dream body, click the video on the screen. YouTube thinks you need it.